Hello. So just please confirm if you can hear me well, and we can start. Okay, since it's working, I can hear myself. So let's start. So the topic of today's webinar is what does QA miss professionally? Just at the beginning, if you have any questions, so we have chat, you can ask them now or keep it till the end of the presentation, and then ask when we are done with the presentation. Okay, a lot of pluses. So we can start. What about me? I'm from Poland, from Krakow. I work for Bravery. It's an educational platform. So we have a lot of students, a lot of users. And actually, like at the picture, that's me. And that's the one you can see, or you will probably see. So the couch just walking on my desk every day and being the star during every meeting. I like to travel, but now it's not the best time for traveling, unfortunately. I like to eat, but I sit so you cannot see it. And actually, I like to speak a lot or talk to people about professional stuff. And that's one of the main reasons why I am here and why you can hear me now. Okay, so we're gonna talk about missing competencies. And at the beginning, and that's one of the most important things, I won't give you an answer what you should learn. I won't give you an answer what you should exactly know to get a job or to develop yourself. However, I will give you a guide what you can do to get missing competencies, or how you can deal with, how you can identify what do you really miss. So I decided to split those competencies into 4 parts. And the first one is quite obvious. That's technology and engineering. So we call ourselves quality assurance engineers. That means we work with technology. We work in IT, so that's definitely technology and engineering. The second one is domain specific, and in our context, that's of course QA. So everything connected with our quite narrow but very interesting domain. The third one is about soft skills. So I decided not to call it hard and soft skills, but just to call it technology. And here we have something that everyone calls soft skills. And the fourth one, and for now it seems quite mysterious, and I call this missing competence as a bravery. But about the fourth one, a little bit later. So the first one, which is technology and engineering. And at the beginning, my favorite is like top 3 of my favorite questions. One of the most common, one of the most popular. So actually, do I need a technical background? Do I need to know how to write a code? Do I need to know about IT industry, about the technological details a lot? Well, if we talk about seniority, and if we assume you work for IT industry, then definitely yes, you do. You work with software. As a senior, you want to talk to other people, you want to talk to other specialists, and I would say it can be quite hard to talk to those people without technical knowledge or technical background, but it's not necessarily like your studies. My studies were like quite a few years ago, and actually those were technical, but I cannot say I remember a lot. So from my perspective, if we talk about senior, if we talk about lead, and we talk about quality assurance engineer, then definitely yes, you should have technical background. However, technical background doesn't necessarily mean you have to know 3 programming languages, you have to know 10 design patterns, you have to know everything about networks. Well, actually, you don't even have to know one programming language very well. It's more about technical knowledge, about technical background. So what I recognize as one of the most problematic things is something I called missing the technology ground. What does it mean? Just imagine the situation. You work for 10 years, you work for one company. That company actually doesn't change a lot in terms of technology, instead in terms of stack, but the world keeps going. The technology, the industry, the new solutions, and you're still at the same company without any new solutions. And then after 10 years, you want to change something and you realize it's far too late and you're back in the pace. You need to somehow catch your group. You are far behind. So just an example, most of you probably know about all of them. It's just to show the examples. So like now everyone is talking about containerization. Well, actually Docker somehow became a synonym of containerization, the same as Selenium became a synonym for testing, end-to-end testing, and it's not really true, but yeah, that's how it works. The second one, well, we want to move everything to cloud. We don't want to keep, store, and maintain everything in place. It's not always possible. Just after 5 years in IoT industry, well, you have physical devices. You need to test those physical devices, so you cannot just move everything to cloud. But in most cases, yeah, we switch from local ground to the virtual ground. Then about architecture, that's not that new, but because of many silos, and there are still a lot of monoliths, because it's not always worth to refactor and to move from old code base to the new approach to microservices infrastructure. And the fourth one, just as an example, Jenkins again is just a tool, but it's more about the mindset change, about approach to software delivery. So from regular deployments, regular iterations, to small increments, so delivering as fast as possible. And just staying for a little bit longer at that point, so delivering as fast as possible and as often as possible. There are a lot of practices how we do it. There is a simple, we can easily divide them. And at first, we talk about agile development. So agile is not Scrum only, because what you can quite often hear from people. Like agile is just adaptation to your needs, to be like to be able to adapt to quickly changing environment. So just to be flexible. Then we want to integrate everything quickly. So we have continuous integration part and continuous delivery. Then we would have continuous deployment, which means we deploy everything to the production. And finally, we have DevOps. And one note from my perspective, and I think not only, somehow people identify DevOps as a position, but actually for me it's not. DevOps is the culture, DevOps is the approach, and DevOps as a position, well, it's somehow adopted in our environment, but DevOps at first is a culture, and it's very good to know. I put it into technical skills because it's strictly connected with software development lifecycle. So definitely, those are things you should learn and you should a lot of about. Sorry for my cats; they are just trying to kill themselves. So, as you have seen here, is about collaboration and value, and I have added one point from my side. We like to do it faster, more continuously, more automatically. However, with a lot of value comes a lot of responsibility, and in that terms, it's risk. So we should be always aware that the more we put as a automation part, the higher risk we can suffer later when it's not done properly. Okay, so that's the only thing about technical stuff. As I said, I won't get deep into what you should exactly learn because it always depends on the context, depends on which direction you want to follow when it comes to your self-development, when it comes to your career path. And now about QA, our domain-specific knowledge. At first, I have an impression that we very often miss quality requirements. At least I called it quality requirements. So just to avoiding those quality aspects when we work for product teams, so we are the only QA, and we agree just to test. And that's it. That's our job. That's our responsibility. So why not to be more proactive, to be more specific, and like saying, hey, but why don't we spend those 10 or 20% just fixing old code, legacy code, or fixing bugs? It's just for increasing our quality. Or another example, definition of done. Well, maybe we should include it. Maybe we should have definition of done that we need some testing before the deployment, or we need a couple of times before the deployment, or we should adjust our process at every stage of development, or just to introduce other aspects of testing. Well, that's up to you. And a third example, performance testing. A lot of people missing it. I'm missing it as well, but that could be one of your requirements. So the point here is that very often we just agree that it is how it is, and we don't really care about putting quality aspects, quality requirements into our job or into our team's job. So what are you really responsible for at your job? And I know there is a delay. I would like to ask you and to see in a chat, how would you describe in one sentence, what are you responsible for in my job? What are you responsible for as a QA at your team? Okay, I will wait for like 20 seconds and you can type. Okay, time is on. So at first, it's always about testing. So I'm responsible for testing. I'm a tester, so I test. No big deal. Clear as that. I do testing. But it's just a small part, right? So we do not talk about testers, we do not talk about testing, we talk about quality assurance, we talk about QA, we talk about engineers. I see a lot of answers in the chat. No worries, that's expected. So this is the first thing. But when we come closer, well, it's provide info about quality level to stakeholders. Yeah. So that's about communication, and that's about estimation of the quality. So actually, we can put it here into quality of the product. So we take care about the quality of the product, and that's very often the stage that a lot of people just stop here. But why not to go? Yeah. So ensure product quality. That's exactly it. But why not to go further? Why not to take care about process and product quality? Why not to take about quality of the process in your team, in your organization, how the people communicate, how the people exchange knowledge or components? Why not to take about how we handle issues between teams? So in general, how we handle quality process. And when we come even further, there is one more thing. We can take care about quality culture at the organization or department level, because it depends what is your organization structure. But why should we only focus on the team only? Well, of course, we should start from the bottom, so from the team. But in the end, well, I think building the quality culture at the organization, that's our target, that's our goal, and that's what we should do. The first thing here, when we talk about QA, is missing risk aspect. So we all use priorities, whatever it is, if it's major, if it's high, if it's medium, whatever the scale we use. But for some reason, we miss risk aspect. And why risk aspect? Because we use at least, there can be more, but we use at least 2 dimensions. And those are more objective than subjective. The first one is always probability. So how is it possible that something occurs? We can also describe it as a that's how we do in terms of users. We can call it scope, so how many users can be affected, but in general, it's about the number, the percentage value. The second one is impact, so how harmful it can be to us, to the business, or to our infrastructure, or to our product. So that's and sometimes we call it severity. And as an output, we have severity. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry for a mistake before. Not severity, but as an output, we have severity. So actually, the results show us how important is identified risk, and we can quite easily do the same. For example, for defects. So when someone is reporting back, we can always ask for more details. So not only what is the priority, but how many users are affected and how important it is for our business. And that's I think that the simplest example is the missing letter on a homepage when there is the highest probability or scope and the lowest impact, because there is almost no impact, but everyone can see it. And the opposite situation is, for example, when people using Android 4.2, that is definitely minority, cannot register to our page or cannot log in. So there is huge impact because they cannot use it at all, but the probability is very, very small. I don't know if there is even 0.1% people across the globe having that kind of Android version. And the next one is missing metrics and statistics. So actually, when we do something and we want to compare it to compare it later to something, and we want to check if we improved. We want to check if we made a progress. If we have no numbers, if we have no results, it's very hard to do that. And it's very, very broad topic. We can talk a lot about it. Just a couple of examples, what can be important for you or useful for you. So at first, components affected. So just to measure which components we should always take care about the most, because there are the most issues. The second one could be quantity over time, and I think you well know it. So how many issues we have resolved and how many issues we have reported. And the third one is priority versus status. So just to check if we always take care at first about our most critical, most important issues. And of course, a lot of other metrics. And something that I suffer a lot. I suffered a lot, and that's always a pain. So being only the bugs catcher. So not being responsible for the process to handle defects, but being responsible to report them. So I found a bug, and could you please report it for me? The hell no, I cannot. I can do a process for you to simplify reporting process to reporting bugs. I can show you how to do it and how to spend like 1 minute just to put it, but I won't report it for you. And can you retest everything that people reported? Well, actually, I don't, because like I can check what we have reported, what I'm responsible for. But if we had a request from support, just put the responsibility into them. Like that's report from user. We have a good process. You can confirm that you fixed it, and just to let them act. Or just being a data fulfiller, so missing data. So someone reported and there is missing data, and why should you just add those data? Talk to people and then add those data. Well, what you should do is just to talk to that people and kindly ask if that person can provide more details, for example, about environment or about steps to reproduce. But just to kindly ask to provide the data, not to be the one responsible for. Okay, so then we have the third part, and those about soft skills. And I decided to rephrase some requirements from the seniority, some requirements from some seniority level. So for sure, when it comes to soft skill, one of those very, very important stuff is passing knowledge and mentoring. So if you cannot pass the knowledge to someone, if you cannot mentor someone, it's hard to call you a senior. If you cannot teach other people how to do better, how to do good things, then probably you should work on that. So that's very important skill. If even if you work closely to the code, so I'm just after 24 hours of Python workshop. I mean, I was the one workshopping, but it's not only about writing code. I mean, I can write a code and I can write a code for 24 hours, but I also know how to pass that knowledge, how to teach people through those 3 days to let them code as well. So being a good technical specialist and not being able to pass that knowledge, I don't think that's what the senior should do. Then if you have any ideas and you want to try it, just express. If you want to try a process, if you want to try your own approach or just to try your own experiment, just do it. Like, there is no one else that can make your wish, and just find what you just guess what you have in your head, and then just try to execute it. And something that you probably have heard a lot, and it's communication. Communication is quite often the biggest cost, across the organization. Actually, not the communication, but lack of communication. So you should be able to talk to people and to express in a fully understandable way. So, for example, when you have English communication, well, surely to improve your communication is just to improve your language skills. Yes, just an example, very trivial one, but in that terms, it surely is. And feedback and transparency, and that's one of the key skills, to be able to give constructive feedback and be able to receive constructive feedback. So actually we learn through feedback. Because if we do not know what we do wrong way, then it's very hard to improve something. At first we should know what to do. At first we should know what to improve, and then we can start improving. And we should do the same to other people. So just not be afraid of providing that feedback. Of course, if it's constructive, because I think it's Eastern culture that we can easily mix feedback with just blaming someone. So it's good to know the difference. And the last one about soft skills is everything connected with bias, and mostly it's confirmation bias. So what does it mean? Well, there's very popular. It works for me. If that works for me, it should work for you, and I don't really care. It works for me. I have the same environment. I can do it. Look at my screen. It's working. So if it works for me, it's just working. And the second one, even more dangerous, is yep, I know that approach. I have tried it, but it didn't work for me, so it's a bad approach. So actually, just relying on your experience from the past. And I can give you a brief example. So in my previous company, behavior-driven development approach didn't went well. And actually, I agree that that was not the best approach, because at that context, probably BDD wasn't that useful. I don't want to get deeper into details because there are a lot of pros and cons of BDD, but the output is it just didn't work. So if I would follow that approach, I would say it didn't work. It's a bad approach, and just be one of those BDD haters, because there are lovers and haters. But we have tried this one, and actually this one, it worked, and actually it's still working. So that bias that it didn't work and I don't want to try it, well, that's not what you should do. And I think that's exactly the definition of confirmation bias. If we want to encourage someone to something, we just trying to find something that confirm our thesis. So okay, I think BDD is great, so I'm just looking only positives to show you. Just read that article. And it's very, very wrong, because if we want to be seen as a good specialist, we could be able to make a deep analysis, whether pros or whether cons to introduce that approach or to introduce that design pattern, and then decide. Not just trying to encourage people because I have a gut feeling that this will work. And the fourth one, the one that I called bravery. So what does it mean? Well, when I think about bravery, there is always fear. And the first one is fear of failing. So we are afraid of making mistakes, and we are afraid of failing. So what is the answer? Just fail fast. Make your mistake and then react quickly. So the only one that doesn't make mistakes is the one that do nothing. So it's like when you do anything, you will make mistakes. Just fail fast. And what is the profit here? Well, at first it speeds up decision making. That was at some point that was a huge pain for me. So slowing down decision making, because like my manager is somewhere, I don't know, holidays, and I need to wait 2 weeks to make a small decision. But maybe I can try it on my own and just quickly try, and then I can make a decision and check if that works. So when it comes to making decisions faster, that's perfect. Then it enables experimenting. So enables trying new things. We like to try. I hope we like to try new things and to try new. Again, when it comes to technical ones, that can be new languages, new tools, or new processes or new approaches. So yeah, if we are not that afraid of making mistakes, we are more willing to experiment. The third one is that we are not afraid of failing. When we make a bad decision, we can react faster. So if we can react faster, we can. So if we did something, okay, let me rephrase. If we did something wrong, and we don't really want to admit that that was wrong, so we continue doing it wrong. And a good example is when we start preparing testing environment for any automation, and after a few months, we see that didn't well, and it's not going to be successful because it's super hard to maintain. We have a lot of red signals, and actually developing it further, it won't help us. But we are afraid of admitting that sucks. So we continue and we keep going. And if we are not afraid of failing, then we can just say, okay, just throw it to the bin and let's start again, because this one is not bringing us any value. And the fourth one, of course, it lets you grow. So it's very useful for your self-development. The second one is fear of ownership. So I don't want to take it because it's too hard, because I don't have enough knowledge, I don't have enough experience, so I shouldn't be responsible for that. Or even more, I don't want to be responsible for that. So fake it till you make it. Just do it until you can pretend you are an expert in that. And why? Well, at first, it enables you problem-solving process. It supports you in problem-solving. So if I don't know how to do something, it enables my brain to think in an abstract way, to try new stuff, and to just follow paths that probably I wouldn't follow if I wouldn't take it. The second one, it increases productivity. Because if we if you have ownership on something, I feel like I'm responsible for it. I'm the owner of that process. I'm the owner of that project. So someone is relying on me. Someone that gave me that project, or someone that I own the ownership, just rely I will be here on time. I can deliver it. So it motivates a lot. It motivates to deliver stuff, and because it motivates you, it automatically increases your productivity, and it teaches you how to deliver. So I'm not just I'm not responsible for the small part. That it's very easy to hide your progress, or very easy to hide what you are actually doing. But when you have something that you have to deliver from the beginning till the end, then you definitely learn how to deliver. Actually, it should be learn, not teach. So you know how to do something from the beginning till the end. So you learn it. And the fourth one, no difference from the previous one. Again, it lets you grow. The third one is something I call fear of incompetence. So we hate to admit, we hate to show that we don't know something. I hate it a lot, and it's super hard to work on that. I don't know that. Could you help me? So ask people, and if you still don't know the answer, then ask again, because that's the fastest source of solving your problems. So yeah, you can watch a YouTube video, you can go through 300 pages documentation, but I'm pretty sure there is close to you someone that can give you almost immediate answer, only if you are not afraid of asking. So the first one, it surely improves your communication skill, because if you need to ask, you need to communicate to people. If you have to communicate to people, you improve your communication skills. The second one, it allows you to do things faster, because you are not like just you are not discovering something very mysterious. You are not trying to go through the abbey of internet. You just have a person or people at your organization, and you can talk to them, or maybe you have your friends that can say you how to do something. The third one, that's actually side effect, but very positive. When you ask, when you know how to ask, and when you know how to admit that you just don't know it and you would like to learn it, that decrease your interview stress, because you feel comfortable asking and answering questions. And that's really helpful, because interviews are one of the most stressful things, and actually not just for interviewee, but sometimes for our interviewer as well. And the last one, of course, again, it lets you grow. Okay, so those are about missing skills. So as I promised, I won't give you an answer to what exactly to learn, but I can give you some suggestions what you should do to improve your skills. And there was a mention about interviews inside the description. So I just spent a while trying to recall some of my interviews, and actually I had few of them during the last 2 or 3 years. It was like almost 100, and I can give you some examples what can go wrong during interviews. And the first one is just answering questions like totally out of context. So I'm asking you about web. So okay, I don't know a lot about web, so I will answer something about architecture or infrastructure, or about mobile maybe. So just answering the question that was never asked, just to seem smart. But silence is very often much better than just trying to answer for any sake. So the second one is like you are actually killing yourself, asking what is this position exactly about. So you came here, you had a job description, and you still want to know more details. You would like to know exactly what this position is about. And very often it's like you have everything exactly in your job description, but then you come and okay, I just read the title, then I have checked 3 requirements, and it was Jenkins, and it was Python, and it was Docker. So I fit here. And the problem is that there's always a lot in job description, including what are your responsibilities or what will be your responsibilities at your job. So just skipping that part and applying for any position, or even worse, being invited and still not reading job description, that can be very painful. And you can quite easily check it as an interviewer. So just ask the question, and do you know exactly what would be your responsibilities? And very often there is just silence. Then it's more from those funnier or more funny stuff. So the candidate applying for the field, or being candidate in a field that he or she is not very often using. So in that context, just answering, I don't use mobile apps too often. When you are a QA mobile app candidate, I don't think that's one of those best answers. Something I personally hate a lot. So just not being asked about something and trying to show off, being like a rock star. So I came here, I'm a good tester, or I'm a great tester. Just look at what I have done. Or I have been to a Chicago conference, so I'm a great speaker. I want to be here. And those QA self-promoters, they usually don't know. They are very frustrating. But if you are not aware of that, and most of them probably are not, then you will make the same mistake again. So that's why I mention it, because I think that's very fair and that's very kind. When someone gives you a feedback after that interview, that's not very well cultural, that's not fitted very well in a cultural context. So you don't really fit to that organization because of that approach. So it's always good to remember that no one really likes showing off. Then it's something that probably you know a lot very well. So CV and skills. So just putting the much higher skill that you really have. And I think that the best example is anything connected with language. And actually, I had that situation. It was like, that was a long time ago, like 7 or 8 years. I put German basic vocabulary just to underline that I have learned like 8 years German, so I have to remember something. But I didn't, and that's very easy to check that if you really fit that level, you fit into your CV. And the same with any other competence, especially those technical ones. So that's example with technical one. I really like to ask, I call it reversed questions. So not what are benefits, but what are either anti-patterns and or what are costs of using the tool or the technology or the process. So that question could be, okay, so what is the cost of using BDD, or when BDD doesn't work, or why Python could be bad in our context. And if you ask people about anti-patterns, that's a very general question for automation candidate. What are anti-patterns for end-to-end tests? And I love that answer. I don't know, I use only good patterns. So if you work like 5 years with the technology and then, or you at least you work 5 years, because probably you know the name for 5 years. And when someone is asking like what are anti-patterns, and you have no idea, it's better to say like I don't really know, than say I use only good patterns. That's one of my favorite answers. Then we have widely defined problem solving. If someone asks you how would you solve that situation, that answer that I don't know, I have never had a situation, is not good approach. So if you don't want, it actually shows that you don't want to solve that problem because you have never faced the problem before. So you don't know how to solve it because you have never faced it, and that's fair enough. But you don't even try to solve it or to find a solution. And that's one of the one of the oldest. I remember people asking, people answering what is the most important for you when you join that company, and then answering, I'm only interested in developing my skills. Of course, we love to employ people who invest in themselves, who want to develop, who want to grow. But when it comes to the approach, like I want to only develop my skills, so I want to only spend time coding without anything else, like investing in building pipelines to deliver, or teaching others, or refactor code. I just want to invest only in my skills. Unfortunately, but from manager perspective or organization perspective, you are pretty useless. You can just do one thing and you want to invest in yourself, and actually it looks like we pay you for developing your skills. And I don't think it works like that. You wouldn't pay for something that doesn't bring you value. You wouldn't pay to someone to just have a holidays and you just sit here. So being like very even selfish in that perspective, actually it's not what you should do. And just remember, when you do something like that, you have no real value for the organization, because you have to show that you can bring value to the organization, not that you want only to invest in yourself. And as the last one, I put it here. It's not very failure or what you can do very wrong during interviews, but that's something I remember very well, and it's extremely funny. So the difference between hardware and software, and the answer, hardware is something hard and software is something soft. And it was not a joke. It was a very serious answer. So I don't even know how to call it. And that's just a funny story from my interviews. Actually, yeah, that candidate didn't get the job, but at least I remember him, and it's not like bad memory. It was just quite funny. Okay, so the presentation is over, and it's 15 minutes already. So I wish you all good luck in self-development adventure, because there is always a lot of to do. And year after year, I discover that the more you don't know, the more you know what you don't know and what you should learn. So, it's like leaving your island, and then you have more and more and more water around you, and you know better because you go further, but there is still more and more water around you that you need to discover. So I wish you good luck. And thanks a lot. You can always find me in Twitter or LinkedIn. And for now, I think you can ask the questions here as well in chat. I can see them. Okay, just let me go through that. So what do you do when people don't want to share knowledge with you because of some reasons? So it depends. What does it mean that people don't want to share their knowledge? But when we talk about, that's very straightforward for me. When someone doesn't want to share knowledge, that person cannot be or can be never senior. Well, like how can you call someone senior? So someone that is a person to follow, if you cannot, or even worse, if you don't want to share knowledge. I think here we should be very straightforward. That like no, it's not what the senior should do. It's not even what good employee should do. And you should give him feedback, or you should pull it higher to your manager to discuss. What about testing pyramid with microservices? It becomes crucial to follow it. I don't want to open discussion here because I'm not a great lover of testing pyramid. But actually, yeah, if we talk about microservices, not about the whole product, then it's fine. So we can we have single microservice, then we have integration between them, and then we can have the whole system, just all those connected together. But then we have, for example, integration with external providers, whatever it is, like payment systems or video providers, if we have some cameras or vision or advertisements. So for microservices itself, I think testing pyramid, it's I don't know if we can. I would say it's crucial to follow it, but definitely testing pyramid is correct for that approach. Oh, great question. So yeah, I think if you have a team or people in your team that that can, or they want to help you, and you are the manager, that's the best team you can imagine, and the best employee, and that's the information that you have the best possible people in your team. So if we have the situation when there is a two-way communication, two-way actually it's called, I mean, it's beneficial for both. So you can teach and you can learn. That's the best possible situation. And actually then we can call about flat structure. So of course, formally you have manager, but informally you can easily exchange knowledge and you can learn from others. So I think that even simpler example, if you can provide feedback to your manager and your manager is really happy about it. I mean, it's useful for him or her and can use it. So from my perspective, this is the best possible scenario, because if no one tells me what to improve, then I don't really know what to do. So yeah, I think it should go both directions, from your manager and to your manager. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, when you I didn't mention about it, but when you asking a lot is great, but when you have good not even formalized, but good approach and good process for that. So, for example, it's much better to set the meeting like 30-40 minutes and just ask your questions to the person, to the experienced specialist, then just coming every half an hour to ask one question. Then you have one of the worst thing that influence your productivity, and that's context switching. So for me, it takes like 15-20 minutes to get back when I develop automation framework. It takes like 15 to 20 minutes to get back to the context. And then when someone comes every half an hour, that's super frustrating. So yeah, you should ask a lot, but you should make it in a better way, because then you can become frustrating. But yeah, you should not be afraid of asking questions. Cool. So I think we are done. If there are no more questions, you can always reach me to ask questions. And that was a pleasure. Work-life balance. Awesome question. That was I think top 1 or top 2 goals for me for last year. Yeah, that was last year. And first or the second most important goal, to find work-life balance. Actually, it depends, because after work you can do different stuff. If your passion is quality assurance or testing, and after hours you just want to sit and write Python, it's the same as you'd open a book and spend some time. So that's about after work. So at my work, actually, I don't have a lot of time to write a code. Actually, it's maybe for now less than 5%. But what I do is I write a lot after hours. I do workshops. I solve some algorithmic problems just for my pleasure, and surely that's self-developing. But I do it as what I do, what I like. So if that's something that you like to do, I think that self-development can be your passion as well. That's one thing. And the second one is that I think every employee should have time for self-development at work. It can be 5, it can be 10%, and it's much better if it's officially announced that you have, like, for example, 10% for your self-development. And during the time you can learn programming, you can learn about DevOps, you can try new tools, you can explore something. But yeah, I think it's much better if it's formalized, because if it's not, then there can be an impression that you do something, but it's not useful for the organization. So I would say those two aspects. When you work and you are not at work. And for me, at now, it works. So when I decided that I'm going to develop myself after work only when I feel like it's my passion, then yeah, definitely. But I don't want to force myself to self-develop after work, because then it's like, it's your passion time, it's your family time, it's your friends time. So when I feel like I do my passion, I do what I like, it's perfect. And from that time, I feel really, I would say, I think the best word to describe, I feel calm. So I don't feel a lot of pressure that I need to push harder, I need to learn that and that and that after work. I learn, but it's just a pleasure. Okay, so we are out of schedule, I think. 2 minutes. Thanks a lot for everyone for joining. And again, for the third time, if you have any questions, just reach me via Twitter or LinkedIn. Thanks a lot.